And any moment now. I'm not used to glitchy tech. Oh, we are live. All right. Okay, so hello, everybody. I am live. I'm Bill Patton, in case you don't know me, but you should because you're on my channel. So what are you doing here if you don't know me? Yeah, if you don't know me, hi. Welcome. So, and then I'm here with Jack Broudy, and today's titled show is Living at the 45. And what we're going to discuss is some of the simple things that make for great players, some of the overlooked, forgotten, neglected, unknown simple things that can really help people get to become much better players than they currently are and reduce the level of frustration in their lives. And we already have two people watching. So if you're watching right now, go ahead and put your name in the chat there. Make a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching from. And if you have a question and we catch it in the middle, then we'll respond the best we can. Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm alive. I'm alive at the 45.
Living at the 45. So he was on the Living at the 45 wake up list this morning.
All right.
That's good. It's important to be on the wake up list. All right. So we were talking in the pre-show a little bit about how you had just kind of hung up with Greg Patton, to whom I'm not related. And so you had some Greg Patton story, a little story about reacting to him. And he's such a really great tennis character. He's one of the all-time Pied Pipers of tennis.
Yeah, I'd say he's a classic. He's a classic from the 70s, the golden era of tennis with, all the excitement and the Half's House and all the actors and actresses. And, everyone was doing tennis in the 70s. And that's kind of when some of these real infamous characters, fantastic people like Greg Patton and Dick Gould. And I've had podcasts with both of them lately. It's just remarkable, and it's just fun going down memory lane, because I've known these guys since I was a junior, because they're a little older than me, and so they knew me from way back when. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so tell us a little bit about your podcast and where people can find that.
Well, my podcasts are all over the place. You can certainly go to the website and just click podcast, and you'll see all of them. I have quite a few, and everyone's pretty neat, pretty substantial, and they seem to be getting more and more, big time coaches, right? Of guys in the top 10, and guys like Dick Gould, and need I say any more? If you're a tennis player, you ought to know who Dick Gould is. Look him up. Art Carrington. That was last week or a couple weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. He and I have a lot in common with that figure eight. Art's a big figure eight guy.
Yeah.
And then Kyle, that was fun. I spoke to Mark Kyle, the worst player to ever beat Pete Sampras. And he and I used to we used to practice together, and I used to, tease him once in a while. Hey, I just beat the guy who beat Pete Sampras.
That's awesome. Let's back up to Art Carrington, because I have a funny story about that. I was director of tennis at a club, and I signed up for your Infinity tennis program. And was using it. Yeah, that was like 2011, right? So I was using that as staff training. And so I had a guy, he's probably my best hire ever, a guy named Issa. And he came and worked with me. And so we were sitting down, we're doing the staff training. I'm showing him the videos, and then we're having our discussion afterwards. And he says, this figure eight stuff's really interesting, because I grew up in Western Massachusetts, and my coach, Art Carrington, and then, you can imagine how the rest of the conversation went. But I think it's really interesting how similar ideas can germinate in different ways, but at the same time in different people. Like I was just reading today about at the same time that the Fosbury flop was being experimented with, there was a woman, I forget her name, but but she had her name for going backwards over the thing, and she was the first woman to break 6 feet in the high jump, and she came up with it independently. So these kinds of things can happen. But anyway, so let's get into that though. Let's talk a little bit about the key principles of living at the 45.
Living at the 45 or the whole system itself?
Well, I mean, yeah, why don't we just start let's get into the 45-degree contact point.
Well, the 45 is what I call the first core fundamental. And basically, if you're a player worth your salt, you line up to that 45, whether it's a groundy, volley, serve, overhead, and you try to stay lined up. But within that lineup, right, within that severe disciplined lineup, like guys like Djokovic have, you have an inner motion, that figure 8 motion in your core that ripples out through your arm in a wave of its own out to the contact point. And it's infinitely quick and it's infinitely accurate. And, it's based on mathematics. It's not really, oh, this is what I see. It's not based on my observation. It's based on something that I saw in mathematics. And I go, oh, that's pretty similar if you think about it. If you put that over Federer, if you put that mathematical equation over Nadal, if you put that same equation over Djokovic and Murray and on, I was like, wow, there's a thin red line that goes through all these great players. And they all do the same thing. I don't care whether if you finish over your head like this, like Nadal, or pretty like Roger. It doesn't matter. And there are certain players that play a style that's, I think, aesthetically incredibly pleasing and natural, like watching the waves. You can watch Federer like you watch the waves. It's almost like your meditation to watch a guy like him rather than a guy like, I don't know, a chip and charger like a Rusetsky or somebody. That's not as much fun. It's not as real. It's not as enjoyable because you're not seeing an artist perform. You're seeing someone who's trying to beat the other guy in tennis. When you see the greatest players, you're seeing artists at work, and the fact that they win is just, that's it. They just win. They're also mentally tough too.
Mm-hmm. That's
but there's a lot of mentally tough people that don't have those strokes.
Awesome. So we have Tom Brennan from Laguna Beach that is watching on LinkedIn right now. So we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at the same time.
I think I know a Tom Brennan. Yeah. I wonder if it's the same cat.
Yeah.
Nice guy. I knew him in San Diego, I think. I don't know if it's the same one.
Seems like a SoCal guy. Laguna Beach isn't that far up the road. So now, do you have any of your teaching aids that you are distributing?
Yeah, most of them in the truck because I played, I shot a little video yesterday. So most of them in the truck, but I've got, the stuff I use, I pretty much have prototypes. I like to, I pay for everything. So I like to sell the good stuff. And so these are a couple of prototypes. That's why they're different colors.
Okay.
They're usually just black and green. And, but these were early prototypes. So they're always on the floor because, when you work all day, or some days I work all day, Fridays and Thursdays, you see, I like to get on these every hour or so. I jump up and I do about a couple of 3 minutes worth of figure eighting. And, and I do that, and that keeps me going on a day like today. Thursdays and Fridays are pretty busy. So those are the BT swivels, and I love them. It started with the 8 board 20 years ago, but these are much better, much lighter, just bulletproof. The other ones weren't bulletproof. We tried. We always try. We still try. And what else? I don't think I have a Cobra with me.
Yeah, in fact, I had one of those blue 8 boards. So I know that
the blue one's an old one. That's a way back machine. That's 1820. That's 20 years old.
Yes, easily. So it was probably 2000 when I got that. It might have been older. So here's the funny thing. So I went and saw you speak. You were selling the 8 board. I picked one up, and I was working with this kid who was, a junior college player. I was one of the better 5-0 doubles players in NorCal. He was a burgeoning college kid. We we both got on the board for just a couple of minutes and practiced hitting a few shots. And then it was amazing how within in just 5 minutes of getting on there and just kind of getting that rotational, goodness going, we were both hitting the ball 5 to 10 miles an hour faster. Both of our minds were blown by that. And then, that was a kid who, it's funny. I mean, as a junior, he was like a doubles player on my high school team. As a senior, he was a number 2 player. And then he became a really good college tennis player. And yeah, I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere, but that moment with the 8 board is something that really took him to new heights for sure.
Well, it's definitely, feeling loose and flowing. Maybe not for everybody. Some people just have too much of a personality where they'd rather, I'd rather control my racket head. I just want to get to net, and I'm an animal. No one's going to pass me. No one's going to lob me. And that's fine. I think I played a lot like that in the juniors, because the guys who could really spank it from the baseline, you knew you had no chance against them, right? We all knew the guys that could really, just tee off from the baseline, like Taylor Fritz style. And there were always a few guys in your area that could do that. And why even bother? Because you're just going to be, fodder. And did you lose me there?
Oh, I'm changing around the.
Okay.
I'm trying a different layout. So how are we now? No, now we got me. Let me see. Let's go to you now. Bear with me a second. I am just trying to get this thing. I'm trying to get you on the screen alone. And I'm having a little bit of a tech issue here, but let me see if I can get you on there. All right. Well, darn it. Oh, did I delete you from the stream? Oh man, I'm just really struggling here. Bear with me, everybody, while I totally struggle here. All right. Let's do that again. La 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 la. All right, are you back?
I'm here.
All right. So yeah, I'm having some very strange tech issues, and I'm trying to get you to have your own screen, and I'm not sure why that's not working right now. But anyway, so yeah, we were talking about kind of that flowing thing about being able to have a nice, easy flow.
Well, yeah, like I said, basically, if you want to play that kind of game, it's for a lot of people. A lot of people are like, it's not so much about whether I win, only if I win. And I really want to play a good game of tennis. I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to, look like I am a natural player and people, love the way I hit. And I'll win more than I'll lose. And for the people like that, this figure 8 idea is a pretty solid one.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, finally, I figured it out. So I got you on the screen by yourself. And then it's one of those things where if you press it once and it doesn't do it, and then you press it twice, then you've toggled it on and then toggled it off. And that's the way my life is going right now. So enjoy, everybody, watching Bill struggle. All right. So now, I love the swivels, and it's time for me to get a new pair. But now you have some other new toys that you're using, and what are those all about?
Well, they're pretty neat. I didn't know that was our topic today. We have the Cobra, and that's a really neat device. I don't believe I have one with me. I'll check.
Okay.
I might get lucky here, but I think I left it in the truck.
Or you could turn a tennis racket around and use the handle as a way to describe what it is.
Well, I mean, as usual, I can just say yes and no, like I always do. Yes and no. If you're just looking to watch the ball, then the handle is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But ours is curved the other way, right? A handle is curved like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ours is curved in a sine wave to go with our program. So it's completely different. So, like I said, yes and no.
What does the sine wave in the
How the formula
Cobra?
works?
Yeah, how does
Yeah, the
what is this?
formula basically works. It's called a standing wave. And if you're interested, Google it. It's a standing wave, and it means if you hold a rope and I hold a rope and it's on the ground and I move it side to side without stopping, it creates a wave, right? And you do the same in the gym, right? You go like this with those heavy ropes and they make a wave, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a mathematics to that. It's not just, willy-nilly. There's actually something to it. So, and that is called a standing wave. And that moving up and down or side to side is a figure eight. See, if you don't stop, obviously you have to round a corner, even if it's the smallest bit. So the figure eight in your hips creates a sine wave in your arm. And if you line it up to the 45, that's your whole program. I mean, that's the formula behind any great player. I don't care if you're talking Hennon, Fed, Rios, Monica Seles, they all do the same thing. If you're looking for what I'm looking for, which is this standing wave, they've all got it.
Okay.
And
So now, now I understand that the Cobra has a standing wave built into it, but
that's right.
But I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around how using the Cobra and the standing wave interact. How does that
Well,
work?
because one of the big misunderstandings is people think you hit through the ball, or you hit across, the ball, but you don't. As your arm goes into the hit, it goes concave in a waveform to convex smoothly, and that's what all the great players do. And you're actually meeting the ball as you go away from the ball. You're meeting it convex. Not everybody, like I said, some people just want to jam and rush and crush, whatever you want to call that. They just want to block the ball and come into net. But if you want to play the way the greats play, that effortlessness and that huge infinite seeming power, and almost on the verge of almost looks like they're reckless. That's how loose they look, right? But they're not reckless at all. It's the opposite. They have this they have an intuition of what I'm talking about. And so yes, so the Cobra is curved this way. I mean, if you want to wait a minute, I can run to the truck and grab one for you. I have one out there. We shot with it this week. We shot some video, but it's very interesting. So it curves like a sickle, and like a wave. And so at the edge, so it teaches you to have your hand laid back perfectly, right? Because as you come around, and that's how you shape the ball. At the tip of the iceberg, you shape the ball with your racket face and your hand, but that's just the very tip of the wave after all that's happened. So the Cobra is a really neat device, and the people that are using it are just going crazy. They love it. And so do I. I mean, every time I want to play good ball, I hit 20 forehands with the Cobra, 20 backhands with the Cobra. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. A couple of things connect with that. So I'm thinking of some, old timey, great coaching from the likes of Tom Stowe and, oh man, who was the guy at Meadowood? He was a Stowe disciple, not Brent Abel, but.
Well, Brent uses the boards. He's been using them since I had the blue one.
Yep.
A long time ago, and 22 years ago.
Yeah, there was a guy who also played at Cal who was the director.
I talked to Brent. We had a podcast the other day. He's a good guy, real good guy.
Acceleration tennis. So anyway, so Tom Stowe used to say that you want the conch on the ball. You want that moment, where the ball and the racket, where the strings and the ball, interact. And I think that really meshes well. And the name of this other guy is escaping me, and I feel bad about that. But he's a Stowe disciple, and he says a lot of people are swinging through the ball, but what you really want to do is you want to swing to the ball.
You
And
just
yeah,
want to get you just want a nice bump. All you want is a nice bump on the ball. That's all. Where the air presses into the ball a little bit more, and the strings go back a little bit more, and you just want a nice bump. And you can do so much with that bump, especially if it comes from your core, right? If it wells out like Bruce Lee's 3-inch death blow, right? He's not hitting with his arm; he's hitting with his whole, from the core of his body out to the fist. It's the same thing. All you want's a nice bump, and and it's a real art. I'm telling you, but it's a science at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the conch represents what I call the bump. It's the same thing. You just need a good bump on the ball.
Awesome. All right. So what's another concept that, people who are learning tennis or, coaching it, don't understand, and there's, they've got this conventional wisdom, but if they understood that, something different, then they would be more successful?
I would say the way people think. They think in linear terms. Oh, I'm going to turn my hips. Oh, I'll turn my shoulders and my arm too. Oh, I'm going to go to the ball. I'll turn everything back to the ball, like they're a hinge of a door. And that's very linear thinking. And I'm going to bring my racket from back here to the ball, rather than thinking in terms of more polarity, meaning which was our system. It's a system of polarities, right? When you're doing the figure 8, one hip is always higher than the other, right? Has to be. Right, one hip is coming in and it's lower because it's crushing in, and the other one's raising. And as it rounds the corner, they switch places. And it happens with every part. You watch any good player, when they go into a forehand, one palm is up and one palm is down. And then as they hit, the two palms switch. And you see players do it on the one-footed backhand, right? They pick their foot up, and this whole left side is higher than the right side. And then as they hit, they level off. And as they hit, they lay back, and the whole left side's higher. So there's a lot of, if you could just think differently and not think in such a linear fashion, then you have a shot. It's a whole different type of coordination.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I used to think in terms of how a lot of these tennis tips, if you try to stitch them all together, that you get kind of a Frankenstein's monster. But then I read the original Frankenstein story, and I discovered there's actually no stitching there involved. But, the analogy, though, holds that, unfortunately, people are running around with these sequential tennis tips that they're trying to execute. My coach told me, turn my shoulders, get the racket there, go to the contact point, follow through, finish. And, and then by the time they try to execute all that, then the ball's gone already, and they haven't even really succeeded. So, one thing I like about the system that you're teaching is it brings sort of that cohesive, it's all one thing together.
Well, exactly. It's a system. It's actually a closed system. You're right. Some tips are good. Some tips are better than others. I heard a good one the other day that this USTA guy told a friend of mine. He said, keep your shoulders inside your legs. Always keep and so I know what he's trying to say, you know what I mean? But it would only work with a great athlete, right? Because he does the, he works with great players, right? At the USTA thing in Florida. And I understand what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, don't let your arm escape and but the problem is it only works with certain players.
Right.
Just like the inner game of tennis. You can't go too far technical, but then you can't go too fluffy. I like the inner game. I really enjoyed it when I was a kid, but reading it now, it's fluffy. It's like, well, sure, go out and relax. Yeah, if I could do that, that would be great. But
no, you know what? I have a major problem with any absolute statement about you always have to do it this way, because I think so. The problem with that is it trains out the natural creativity of the person, and it makes them think that there's something they can't do. So then when an extreme weird thing happens on the court, they're not ready to handle it. And I'm going to give you an example, because one of the craziest and most fun things I've ever seen was on a tennis court. So imagine I'm a doubles player and I'm in the deuce court at the net. Okay. And then there's a player opposite me, and this is doubles. There's a player opposite me, and he hits a very skinny angle volley that way. Okay. Now, technically, that's going to be my partner's ball because it's hit that side of the court. So what does this kid do? The kid here gets a forehand grip on his racket, and he dives that way, getting his shoulders way out from under his feet, and he reaches out and he flicks the ball backwards the other way at about 178-degree angle. And then it goes across, and the other kid is not equipped to deal with that weird shot, and he just watches it go by, and that was match point for a dual match. The one team was all geared up to win that match, but that ability to just creatively move and do what was necessary and break, multiple rules of fundamental play to do it, I think that's part of the beauty of tennis too.
Well, there may be some outliers. There's a few here and there, getting a ball back without hitting a backhand, just doing that. There are a few outliers, but in general, I would probably challenge anybody and say, well, there's not a certain way to hit it, but you can always have the same philosophy to hit it. Meaning, get on my swivel, meaning this. Meaning I can be on clay and have all the time in the world and have a nice figure eight in my hips and a big stroke and a big topspin, right? Off of my figure eight. Or I can be playing someone and have to do something so quickly. I have a tiny figure eight and it's all related. And my arm is still doing the same thing it was before, only in a smaller circle. So it's like dropping a pebble in water. If you do that, the rings get bigger. So I'm saying you can always play off the same philosophy. And I would dare say that if you showed me a shot, even the one you're talking about doesn't sound like a bad shot. It sounds like a great shot. I'll bet I could show you, well, if you look at it this way, you'd see the fundamentals here. The same three fundamentals. So I'm saying I think there's a philosophy you can live into on pretty much all shots. Like I said, there may be an outlier. Who cares? But, even tweeners, that you see all the fundamentals of boom, like that. And there's the figure eight in a tweener big time. And so that's all I'm saying is I would, that's where I disagree with so many people. I say, well, yeah, there's always the same philosophy. It just might look different. Like Nadal's forehand looks a little different than Fed's. Yeah. But the essence is the same.
Well, and I like that. I'm glad you brought it back to Federer because, people, while of course Federer's, the maestro and whatnot, only Federer plays like Federer. I mean, people can mimic him, but I think it's fascinating that Nadal doesn't hit his forehand like Federer. He's not mimicking Federer. Djokovic is not mimicking Federer. See, so what thing I really like about your program, and especially the Living at the 45 thing, is people can learn to play like themselves.
Right. It's true. It's true. You take the fundamentals and then you stylize it yourself. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really funny because, I'm reflecting back on this one kid that I coached who just adored Federer beyond belief and, wore all the same clothes, made sure he had the same racket and, modeled his game after Federer. And I swear his game looked like Federer's game. I mean, he wasn't the athlete. He didn't have it all perfectly down, but stylistically, he was pulling it off. And I was like, this is maybe one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Somebody who actually made it work imitating another player. Because generally, everybody's going to have their own little idiosyncrasies, that are different.
I'm going to guess that you taught him the 45, and the figure 8. And he probably took it from there.
Yeah, I have to say that I have to give the kid credit. I did do those things, but the kid already sort of preformed, was already trying to mimic Federer. Maybe I helped him along the way a little bit more with that. But yeah, it's not, he wasn't a kid that I worked with for an extremely long period of time. So, all right. So now, how can people reach out to you to get more involved with your teaching system and, get a hold of some of these teaching aids?
Yeah, just shoot on over to BroudyTennis.com, and that's BROUDY. And we've got it all there. We've got, a whole school where people go in for, at a month at a time membership, and it's priced very, very well. I mean, a couple cups of coffee a month. And we've got hundreds, literally, I think over 300 videos already. And we add 3 videos every week. You've done a podcast or 2 with me, so we do podcasts as well. And I have a whole indoor course where if you're stuck indoors all winter, not like you out there, but some of us are now, and you get on your swivels and you get your Cobra and you go through a whole half-hour routine. We've got lots of those types of things. So it's pretty interesting little group I've got going, I have to say. And we're getting more members every week. It seems like we get more than the week before. So it's exciting and it's fun and we have a good time. And everyone has access to me. I know almost everyone in the school, not really, but almost. The ones that reach out to me, I help them wherever I can. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really great. Is. That's great. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. And, if you're out there watching, if you could, click like and subscribe and do all that stuff. And if you have a question and you want me to forward that on to Jack, I can do that. So go ahead and type your questions and comments in the comment section. So, Jack, thank you so much for your time, my friend. And
thank you,
I
Bill.
look forward
I hope you have a nice holiday and all that.
All right. Very good. So BroudyTennis.com is your one-stop shop for all that good stuff.
Just click the link below.
Yeah, there will be a link below for sure.
All right, so, good.
Yes.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Take good care.
You bet. Am I supposed to do anything?
Hold on. Yeah, this
cheers.
Take good care.